Now we're going to create a chatbot with a vector database. A lot of people have messaged me asking for a simple example. So today I want to show you an example of where building any kind of chatbot actually starts, and what kind of vector database to use. For this I use and recommend using at the initial stage, again yes. That is, just to test your hypothesis. For those who don't know what a vector database is, by the way, I recommend watching my video. I've recorded several here, where I go into detail about how it works. But in this video, we'll focus specifically on building workflows. So, what do you need at the initial stage? But of course, we need some file that we want to upload to the vector database so the agent can access it. Right now, I'll ask the LLM to generate one. So, it generated an example for a fictional company. Yes, I asked it to generate a document and a policy. Yes, some documents that we'll be asking about when we build our workflow. Now we have the file. Now we need to upload this file somewhere. For example, let's use Google Drive workflow as an example. Every workflow starts with some kind of trigger. In our case, we're interested in a Google Drive trigger. So we've added the Google trigger. Now we need to select it directly. And if you don't have authentication set up for Google Drive, you'll need to do that here and set the parameters. To make it work, I've already shown how to do this. Let me know in the comments if you need a separate video on this again. Because every time we deal with Google Drive or Google services, some people might not know how it works. I want to understand what percentage of people don't know how to do this. Maybe I should make a completely separate video for this. So let's continue, and don't forget this step. You need to go to Google Cloud and enable Google Drive and the API. Otherwise it won't work. Every Google service requires you to enable it separately, and each has its own limits on the number of requests. Now, we select the folder I created specifically for our video, and here we can add how we want to monitor it. If any files are created or added, for example, in this case, it's enough for us to create an instruction to monitor all the files we add there. And now I'm making a test entry. It shows that there are no files there. Alright, let's save. Now I'll upload a file. Select File Upload. File Upload. So we've uploaded the file. Now let's go to our workflow. And let's run it now. Yes, it found some file. Let's take a closer look. Here you can see a lot of meta information, some data. But there are key things we need to focus on. That's the file name and the file ID. This is what we'll be using next. So the beginning of our workflow is ready. By the way, don't forget to publish it once you're done, because right now it's only in test mode. And when you add, for example, more files, it won't run automatically in this mode. You always need to press this button manually. That's why some people, I know, forget and then say it doesn't work. In the top right, you'll see inactive. If you turn it on, it will say publish, and you'll get a warning about switching to active. And now, when we upload, it will update and run every time. So as long as we're working on it, keep it on inactive. Now we've received the metadata for our file, and now we need to upload it. Google Drive does this as well, but with the Google Drive node, we need to download the file. So here, we just need to specify its ID from the previous node. So we don't look for the ID, we just drag it over, run it, and now our file is already uploaded here. notice that it will show the binary file we've uploaded, as well as some information about it, like the size, for example, and everything else that we basically saw here. But I want to point out that before, for example, we only had a JSON representation on the left side, but now we have a binary representation. The file itself is now uploaded. So now we're going to add our file directly to the Pinecone vector store. I recommend Pinecone to everyone. I really like this service, especially at the initial stage. That is, it's very fast, very high quality, and gives you a lot of advantages out of the box. Plus, it's free to start testing. Yes, indeed, they do offer a very accessible free tier, as they explicitly state on their platform. Therefore, when we proceed with the integration of Pinecone into our system, it is absolutely essential that we have the necessary credentials readily available. Let's take a moment to meticulously create these credentials first. Specifically, what we require here is a unique API key. To obtain this, I will navigate directly to the official Pinecone login site, and upon successful access, the system will promptly and automatically generate a brand new API key for our immediate use. We copy it. Here's how you can set it up. Let's copy, paste, and save it. So, it shows that the connection is successful, and now we need to rename it so we don't forget which one we're using. We save the email for this, close it, and now let's go back to Pinecone. Let me explain the basic principles here. So, you need to create an index, and here you select a basic smoke zone. You can leave it as llama text embedding, but it's better to choose the text embedding small from open. It says here that this is to save money, so you can start with it. It will be enough. To develop or disprove your theory, pay attention here. It says 502, 512. More precisely, we'll like this in the future. We'll need it. So we leave it here and create the index. Great, the index is created. Now we have a database. I wanted to specifically mention the namespace. By default, it's set to default, but you should think of namespaces like folders. That is, you'll be uploading some data there and assigning different namespaces. In this case, our namespace is FAQ, and that way, for example, if we want to make a request or upload a file. If we need another one, we'll have to create a separate namespace so they don't overlap. So you'll treat them like folders. If you specify the correct folder, the agent will know the information from that folder. If you specify a different folder, it will know the information from that other folder. And accordingly, if you specify the wrong folder, that means the agent will have incorrect data, and the response will be just as inaccurate. Let's take a look. Here, I select our index that was created for the demo. Then, for the namespace, let's call it APIQ. Now, the next thing we need to add is the embedding model. We'll choose one from OpenAI. You need to select the same one that you use for the index so that your workflow works correctly. In this case, I already have an OpenAI account. But let's add a new key so you can see exactly how it's done. Here, when you add it, there's always a link to the documentation, which the team has made very convenient. So let's open the OpenAI platform now, and here you'll need to register if you haven't already. Create a new key, copy it, go back, paste it in, and save. Of course, I'll delete it, so you don't need to remember it. OpenAI will be the one handling the conversion of our file into a special vector format, so that our agent can work with it more effectively. Here, select Depot Data Loader, and here we need to choose an option. If we select JSON, for example, and leave it here, it means these files will be uploaded. But what we actually need is the file itself, not the metadata. We need the information from this file, specifically the file itself. So here we select binary. Let it automatically determine the type, or you can specify a custom option and add how you want to split your page. But for the initial testing stages, it's enough to choose simple until you figure out the best way to split this file. But again, in my videos where I go into detail about the RAG system, I cover these parameters more thoroughly. You can watch those and get a better understanding. So, how exactly does file splitting work, and which option is best to use? You can specify that here. Here, there's a method option. This is very convenient when you use it to filter files. For example, if you have a lot of files in this namespace, in this folder, then you definitely need metadata. This could be the file's creation date, or it could be some other information, like the category the file belongs to. That way, you'll be able to configure your system more flexibly. But again, my goal right now is to show a basic example, so we won't go into detail here. We'll leave the symbol as is. So now let's see how it loads this data. It says that Markdown is not supported by hand. So what can we do here? We can just rename the file from ND to TXT, and you'll get exactly the same result. Here I demonstrated it for you. I renamed it, and look, it's exactly the same. And now we'll reload it. So, for example, I go to our Google folder, the YouTube one, and we add a new file here, upload it, run it again, and where Kaivoff pull is, now it's here. If we look at the songs, check the process, you can't view it. Okay, it's processing the file right now, and here we can take a look. Look, as you can see, the file has a new ID. We got it, and the extension is .txt, as you can see, so it's processing it. We're waiting for it to prepare. Converting a file from text format to vector format can take some time. Of course, it depends on the file size and the model you've chosen. Well, let's wait, and we got an error. Pay attention to that. So, the vector dimension 1536 doesn't match 512. Let's go back to Pinecone. Here it's set to 512. That's what we have set. This is what I showed you to pay attention to, right? And here, it's not selected, so we need to specify it. Yeah, let's set it to 512. And the reason I want to show you this is because you might run into the same errors, and I want you to know how to solve them. So, the dimension here should also match, just like the model. And now I'll run it again after making the change, and it completes successfully. Notice that here we have got 9 distinct chunks as output, which means it has split our original file into 9 separate and individual chunks. And now, if we go and take a look here, refresh the page, we'll see that there are also 9 records. We can go inside this namespace. And here, if you switch the browser, you'll see that our namespace is split. And here are the 9 chunks that were uploaded directly by Ink. That's it. But that's all good. Now let's check how it works to make sure it works as expected. Let's use the chat trigger. But hold on, here it is. The chat and the trigger, so the trigger. And yes, we have it here personally. Now we want to connect an agent there, of course, one that will be linked. We see that it has connected. Here we leave connected chat trigger. But yes, so this model is suitable for it, the one we want to use. Let's use it. My favorite model is 41 Mini. It's cheap and very high quality. Let's see if we can get good results with it. And the tool we need is Pinecone Vector 100. We connected here. Here we already have it set up with LangChain. We put it in. Here we insert the retrieved document. Next, let's specify the description knowledge in the list. Select the index we created. You can play around with the limit here. Yes, that is, experiment. In this case, for example, I'll set it to 20, but we only have 9. Usually by default, let's leave it at 4. Why do we need 20? That's it. Let's see how it works with 4. With 4, we turn on the methods, leave everything else as is. Here are the options. Ping the namespace. Pay attention. Here we absolutely have to specify it, otherwise it won't see our folder. Well, in this case, namespace is what I call a folder, just so it's easier for you to understand. This should be the same as what we specified in Pinecone Vector Store when uploading the file. In other words, they have to match here and here. This is very important, otherwise it won't work. And the model. We use the same model from OpenAI, the same small one we used before, and here I'm using it too. Okay, let's save and open our chat. So let's see what fields are in the file. We can ask about our company. Alright, so here's typical response time. Okay, let's ask this question. To start with, the answer should be within 2 hours. And during business hours and many powers, it throws out this set field. Let's take a look and maybe change it a bit so it's not exactly the same. Yeah, right from the peak. So, from the response time, we wait and pay attention. It replied with some general traits and what to do in such cases, but it didn't even refer to our vector database. Think for a second about what you can do, and I'll give you further advice on steps to improve this prompt. So let me talk a bit about what you can do with this, what you can actually do with this prompt. For example, we can add prompt options for our AI agent. For instance, we said this, but it's better to use a bot FIK. No, not yet. And there's also a typo here with Pinecone. And now here is the Sims system prompt. Let's show the occult assistant, where we specify that it is an assistant. And let's specify that it should always use our database. Alright, we've specified that. Now let's check it. I'm asking the same question. By the way, our memory isn't connected, so don't expect it to remember anything from memory. So it accessed our Pinecone vector store, but some kind of error occurred. Again, it's a dimension error. So we need to pay attention to this again. Yes, I missed that. But now we've figured it out. When we uploaded the file, we didn't specify the correct dimension, so the file was uploaded with an incorrect dimension. And we have two options: either re-upload the file, which is what I'm going to do, or specify a different dimension in the agent's vector store. But let's do it correctly. So now I'm going to re-upload this file again, but this time with the correct dimension, so you know how to handle this. So what I'm doing now is going into the namespace and deleting all my existing records. You can do this one by one, or you can go into the namespace and delete the entire namespace. For example, yes, I'm going to delete it completely now, and all of the chunks here will disappear. Now, I will go back and proceed to delete it within Google Cloud, and then I will upload a completely new file. Pavel, please note, not entire folders, but rather you should select the specific X-Telegram file, and it will then upload here. Subsequently, I will execute the necessary command, and at this point, it should indeed upload with the absolutely correct dimension, and as expected, it successfully did. Now let's try our chat again. What question did we ask? Right, response time. Here is the response time. Now our dimension matches, everything matches, but we're still getting an error. Okay, but clearly we've missed something else. Let's take a look. So MB1512, I didn't specify it here, and here we didn't set it either. Apparently it's set to the default here as well. Yeah, here, probably, the dimension is set to 1536. And now let's try again. Maybe that was the mistake. Now we've specified it everywhere we could. Yes, it worked perfectly, and the answer suits us just fine as well. Response time type, 2 hours business inch, okay. And if we look at this file now, here they match up. Let's ask something else. Return policy, full refund within 30 days of purchase. Refunds not used within that period can be canceled within 7 days. Okay. Let's ask about the refund, yeah. So not the red cheese, black fruity, okay. Let's do refund. So we check refund, and it gives us that the real refund period is 14 years. So all the information from the file is now working perfectly. And I just want to add that we encountered several issues here, which you'll most likely run into as well. And we managed to solve them successfully. And I especially like that we also touched on dimensions. Yes, because if you miss the dimension code somewhere, you'll get that kind of error. And it's also good that at first, it didn't use the Pinecone vector store, right? But then we added the prompt system with additional information, and it started using it. That's also important, and this part here is for the agent's system prompt. You can control and specify in detail in which cases to access the vector database, and in which cases not to. You can add several databases here, that is, you can describe each database, each vector store, and specify what it's for. And you can use different namespaces in Pinecone, but pay attention, dimension is very important. And then there's the system prompt. So if you see an error related to dimension, you already know what to do. Most likely, Either the files were originally uploaded with the wrong dimension, or the dimension is currently set incorrectly. By default, it's set to one that needs to be changed for everything to work correctly. Hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel. I read and reply to everyone. Join the Telegram channel and ask your questions. Don't forget about the course on n8n. If you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? Sign up for the waitlist. Those on the waitlist will get a discount. Make sure to complete the survey, as it affects the end of the course. I have one module left to film, and then I still need to edit it. So hang tight.